Hello, everyone. You're a lot rowdier than I was expecting. I kind of had a Radio 4 audience in mind, but you're a bit more young and funky, so I'm going to have to up my game a bit. But that should be fine, because it's an utter privilege for me to be on this stage. I love SOFII. I've loved it since it started. I think it's such a fantastic idea, a showcase of fundraising, innovation and inspiration. I believe that great fundraising isn't possible without innovation and inspiration. And without great fundraising, we're not going to save the world. And as James was saying, that's what we're all here to do. Unfortunately, I'm going to start us off with some great fundraising. I'm going to start with a short video by the charity that I'll be talking about. You'll recognise them. They're an international children's charity. And so here they are talking about what they've just achieved.
We're going to come together, and this is going to be an historic moment, as one Commonwealth family to do something amazing. We're going to put children first.
Please join in this moment and let's make history together. Every penny you can donate will go to UNICEF's Children of the Commonwealth Fund.
Everybody in Glasgow, you're the most generous city I've ever been in. Lead the way, get your phones up.
It now gives me the greatest pleasure to declare the 20th Commonwealth Games open.
Generous support of our partnershp with UNICEF and Glasgow 2014 has raised a magnificent £5 million.
How amazing is that? So, of course, I'm talking about the UNICEF partnership with the Commonwealth Games in 2014 in Glasgow, in which UNICEF were able to build a partnership where they unified their message with the Commonwealth Games to reach an audience of 1 billion people around the world, 10 million just in the UK. Absolutely incredible. A big, ambitious, visionary dream that no one had ever tried before. So I'm going to tell a little bit of that story, and it starts back in 2012. UNICEF had already been on a journey with sport for many years, but back in 2012, you might remember this event happening, which I thought was embodied by a rich old lady jumping out of a helicopter. It was, of course, the London 2012 Olympics. And UNICEF were one of the partners involved at the time. And they did well, but they realized that they weren't really breaking through. There were so many stories, competing visions. They weren't reaching the audiences that they knew they were capable of. And so they looked and said, okay, how do we do something different? And their patron and former president, Lord David Putnam, had the idea, how about we take over the opening ceremony? That one key moment of an international event where all the world's eyes are looking in the same direction with the same anticipation and ambition. And so that's what they set out to do. They looked at the Commonwealth Games in 2014 and said, how can we make their story our story? Which, as I'm sure you'll agree, is quite a Herculean challenge. There's Hercules looking well up for it. UNICEF were well up for it. So, that's horrible, isn't it? I'll turn it off. But a massive challenge. You know, they thought of this in 2012. Already the Commonwealth Games, well, their planning was already well underway. Think of all the stakeholders they had to involve. There's, of course, the organising committee of the Commonwealth. There's also the group that was responsible for the games themselves. There was all the creative directors who were already thinking stuff up, the Danny Boyle of the Commonwealth Games. There were partners all around the world. There were media agencies. There was the BBC, who, as we know, are not particularly keen on fundraising for other charities because they've got their own to be fundraising for. All of those partners, UNICEF offices all around the world, all needing to be on board. And of course, there was absolute massive risk in taking on something so big, bold, and ambitious as well. It'd never been done before. How do you benchmark this? How do you know what's the right amount of investment of time and money to put into something like this? How do you make sure you don't just end up with something that was great for brand, but made tuppence halfpenny for the charity? And of course, there was a huge amount of uncertainty as well. Day by day, week by week, they were having to make decision after decision, significant decisions with hardly any of the information available, but they just had to keep going. If your boards are anything like the ones I've worked with, uncertainty is not their favourite word, but they had to keep going in order to make this happen. And they did. What a success. They reached that audience of 1 billion. On the night, that single moment when they asked everyone in the world to put up their phone, 600,000 people texted a donation. That raised on the night £3.5 million. Over the course of the whole event, across the whole games, they raised another 1.5 million. That's the over 5 million. And of course, they're not stupid. They've now got the details of all those people who've texted to continue the story, to build a further relationship that will be worth many millions over many years. Absolutely fantastic. Of course, we're all thinking, though, quite apprehensively, what do we do with that? That's Paul and Rob from the night, from Open Fundraising, who were thinking, what do we do with all this stuff that's coming in? What do we do with this? Because I'm not suggesting all of us here need to go out and try to fundraise through major global international sporting events. I think UNICEF have probably got it sewn up. But I think there are things that we can learn from how they approach this visionary idea. Firstly, if you're going to do something new and big, you probably need other people. So you need to understand your partners. You need to know, firstly, what is it that they're trying to achieve and how can you make your story part of their story? And UNICEF did that amazingly well. You need to join it all up. You need to know what's your key story and run it through everything. So putting children first, you'll see, is like a golden thread through everything that happened over the course of the Commonwealth Games. And keeping the show on the road is critical. When it's new and big, you've not done it before, you've just got to live with that ambiguity and keep making decisions and have the confidence to do it. And most importantly, don't forget the supporter experience. It's very easy when you're caught up with doing all this kind of thing to lose, actually, what's the impact you're having, how you're involving people. But what UNICEF did was never forget that. If you look at on the night with the social media, they had a whole team just tweeting to make sure they were there, conversation after conversation. They had 97% of the digital traffic on the night. The Commonwealth Games had 2%. That's what happens when you put supporters first and think about how you connect them to impact. And so they did it. They pulled it off. They raised all that money. But what I would say to each of you is the big thing for us to take away is not all of that. It's just one thing, and that's about having a big, bold, ambitious vision that you then see through into reality. Because if we're really serious about changing the world, we need to be serious about having our version of the Commonwealth Games in our plans. And so it's for that that I thank UNICEF and everyone involved and genuinely wish that I'd thought of that. Thank you.